Naval Mutiny of 1946. One of the most heroic and largely forgotten episodes in Indian freedom struggle was the Naval Mutiny in Bombay from 18 to 25 February 1946. This mutiny in the Royal Indian Navy was the outcome of various factors. There was a great amount of discontent among the Indians serving in the Royal Indian Navy due to the continued racial discrimination in every aspect of their service, such as recruitment, promotion, payment, food, and other benefits. Besides, the Indian in the RIN were not immune to the influence of the INA trials and the post-war popular upsurge in India. After the war, the men who served in the INA were put on trial. They were charged with the treason against the British Crown. As a result, there was a wave of nationalist protest and massive demonstration was held all over the country. Not only the Congress but also almost the entire political leadership of the country was opposed to the trials and expressed themselves apathetically in favor of releasing the INA prisoners along with other political prisoners. This aspect of mutiny undoubtedly proves its nationalist character. One more nationalist aspect of the mutiny was the demand of the mutineers for the withdrawal of Indian troops from Indonesia, which was also fighting for independence at that time. Further, the wartime expansion of the RIN had brought in men from all parts of the country, weakening the old military traditions of recruitment from politically undeveloped martial races. As a result, certain nationalist elements could infiltrate into the armed forces, including the Navy. Finally, the Indian men in the RIN came into contact with world developments during their services abroad. The weakened position in the Great Britain after World War II made them realize that Indians too could achieve freedom if the Indians put more pressure on the British. Course of the mutiny. On 18 February 1946, ratings in the Singles Training Establishment, Talwar, a ship, went on a hunger strike against bad food and racist insults. Next day, the strike spread to Castle and Fort Barracks on shore and 22 ships in Bombay harbour. And the tricolour was raised on the mastheads of the rebel fleet. A naval central committee headed by M.S. Khan was elected and demands were formulated for combined issues of better food and equal pay for both white and the Indian sailors. They raised nationalist political slogans and demanded release of INA officers and other political prisoners and withdrawal of Indian troops from Indonesia. The men, however, hesitated fatally on the borderline of peaceful strike and determined mutiny, finally obeying orders to return to their respective ships and barracks on the afternoon of 20th February, only to find themselves surrounded by army guards. Next day, actual fighting started at Castle Barracks when ratings tried to break out of their encirclement, with the ships providing artillery support, while Admiral Godfrey flew in bombers and threatened to destroy the navy. The same afternoon was a remarkable scene of fraternization, with crowds bringing food for ratings in Gateway of India and shopkeepers inviting them to take whatever they needed. By 22nd February, the strikes had spread to naval bases all over the country, as well as to some ships on the sea. At Karachi, the Hindustan, a ship surrendered and Muslim students and workers demonstrated their support through violent clashes with the police and the army. However, the mutineers finally surrendered on 23rd February 1946 due to their hopeless position and also due to the assurance given by the nationalist leaders like Patel and Jinha that the national parties would prevent any victimization, a promise which was soon forgotten. Attitude of leadership. Congress leadership like Gandhi and Patel was strongly against the mutiny. Gandhi condemned it as a bad and unbecoming example for India and advised the mutineers to peacefully resign their jobs if they had grievances. Patel, though gave an assurance to the ratings that the nationalist parties would prevent any victimization, quietly went back on the assurance, saying that discipline in the army could not be tampered with. Every Nehru who supported the mutiny initially felt the necessity of curbing the wild outburst of violence. The leaders of the Muslim League too adopted an attitude similar to that of the congressmen. In fact, it was one of the very few occasions when the League headed by Jinnah cooperated with Patel and other Congress leaders in persuading the ratings to surrender unconditionally. But the leaders of the CPI and the Congress Socialist Party gave full support to the mutiny and even called for a general strike by the workers in Bombay in support of the mutiny. Despite Congress and League opposition, 3 lakh workers downed their tools in Bombay on 22nd February. Aruna Asaf Ali, a Congress leader, said it simply does not lie in the mouth of congressmen who were themselves going to the legislatures to ask to give up their jobs. Significance of the Naval Mutiny. It broke down the iron wall between the army and the people for common cause, a fact which was conceded later on by Nehru. It also demonstrated the patriotism of the Indian soldiers for the second time, the first time being the INA. In the process, it made the British realize their precarious position in India. Finally, it set a second example of communal harmony between Hindus and Muslims. The first example was set by the INA. But unfortunately, the RIN ratings of February 1946, in sharp contrast to the men of the INA, have never been given the status of national heroes, even though their action involved much greater risk in some ways than those of the INA.